Greetings, fight fans. You are definitely going to enjoy watching this video. Let's get straight into it. ILIA Topuria, coming off two huge knockout wins against Alexander Volkanovski and Max Holloway, added Charles Oliveira to his list of spectacular knockouts with a powerful right cross. And just as Joe Rogan said, the follow-up left hook was just academic because Oliveira was already knocked out cold before hitting the mat. ILIA then quickly followed up with two hammer fist strikes to the face of Charles before the referee, Mark Goddard, called a stop to the fight in the very first round. Let's take a deeper look at how ILIA pulled off the win against Oliveira at UFC 317. Please support this channel by subscribing, liking, and sharing this video. Topuria's strategy going into this fight was to showcase his huge knockout power early in the fight with his striking precision. And he was going to do this by exploiting Oliveira's forward movement with his great timing and footwork, then finally make a statement win in the very first round. In the opening seconds, Topuria begins with sharp jabs and a powerful right, which narrowly misses. Oliveira counters with hooks, both fighters testing each other out. Oliveira backs up Topuria with front kicks, but Topuria, determined to showcase his power early in the fight, fires another set of jabs to back his opponent. Oliveira threw some leg kicks, but Topuria almost completely ignored them as he was having huge success with his jabs. There was a lot of power behind ILIA's jabs. Oliveira caught ILIA with what appears to be the side of his hand, but Topuria did not even flinch. Instead, he threw his own combination right back and lands a left hook. I think it was this exchange that caused the cut just above Oliveira's eyes. Even though we cannot clearly see the cut from this angle, Topuria's footwork was on point, as we could see him constantly sidestepping to his left to avoid the front kicks while still throwing power jabs. Something really commendable about Topuria is that he rarely overcommits to his jabs. His in-and-out movements are swift, and his footwork and head movements are on another level. At this point in the fight, Oliveira is fully aware of the power Topuria possesses in his hands, and he starts to give him some respect as we start to clearly see him biting on Topuria's feints. Now, Oliveira, being a very experienced fighter and knowing that Topuria was gaining more confidence and momentum, did the smartest thing he could have done, level changing and going for the takedown. Oliveira initiates a clinch, pushes Topuria to the fence. Topuria defends well, then executes a perfectly timed trip to take Oliveira down. It is worthy of mention that Oliveira has an elite jiu-jitsu background and holds the record of the most submission wins in the UFC. So taking down guys is something he is used to. Oliveira also looked bigger in size compared to Topuria, as observed during the clinch. But Topuria's wrestling and grappling skills is on another level. ILIA Topuria is an elite grappler, and we do hope to see more of his grappling skills in the future. And this is another reason why the Topuria versus Islam fight would be one of the biggest fights to make in the UFC. I do hope we get to see that fight someday. It would absolutely be huge. Now let's get back to the fight. Topuria briefly controls Oliveira in a crucifix position, working ground and pound. Oliveira escapes and attempts a leg lock, but Topuria clearly came with the keys for the lock as he unlocks himself and escapes. Just before he escapes the leg lock, ILIA clearly sees Charles leaning on his left hand while throwing a punch with his right. ILIA rolls his head with the punch and, seeing Charles completely exposed, returns with a right hand of his own, which forces Charles to give up the leg lock. Topuria gets back on his feet while Charles remains on his back. Now, a lot of people have accused Charles of staying on his back while facing adversities during fights. But in my opinion, I think he does it to bait his opponents into diving down at him, which can open them up for his submissions. But ILIA clearly was not going to fall for that, especially because he could see that Charles was already busted up and visibly getting tired. Ref Mark Goddard steps in and stands them up. Fight resets and Oliveira goes right back to the leg kicks, But Topuria's jab is just too sharp and he is realizing a lot of success with it. He throws some barrage of other punches, and at this point, Oliveira does the next best thing he does very well, utilizing the clinch and trying to land some knee shots to slow down his opponent. But frustratingly, Topuria is able to escape once again and reset the distance between them. El Matador, now fully aware that he is in total control of the fight, starts using his feints to open Oliveira up to his power jabs and body shots, which he eventually takes advantage of in the closing seconds of the fight. Charles, not ready to give up just yet, throws an uppercut of his own and attempts to cut Ilia's movement with a clinch. But once again, Ilia's footwork comes into play as he escapes and takes the fight to the center of the octagon. This brings us to the final sequence leading up to the knockout. Topuria starts moving back to get Oliveira comfortable with marching forward. Then he throws several jabs from his back foot. Then, while still within range, Topuria throws a jab and lowers his hand, provoking Oliveira to go all in for the strike without keeping his left hand up to protect himself. But this turned out to be a dangerous game of the bull and the matador. Topuria times a devastating right cross, snapping Oliveira's head back. As he collapses, a short left hook seals the KO. Oliveira is out before hitting the canvas. Topuria goes for a few follow-up hammer fists for good measure, before the referee steps in and stops the fight. The lightweight division has a new king. ILIA Topuria becomes the first undefeated champ in 2 UFC weight classes.
Declared the winner by knockout and new undisputed UFC lightweight champion of the world, ILIA Topuria.
As a side mention, I do not think Paddy deserves the title short just yet. Certainly, Topuria versus Pimblett would be a huge money fight for the UFC and an overall fan favorite, but I just think the ranking should count for something. Perhaps Paddy Pimblett versus Arman Tsarukyan should fight in a title eliminator match, and the winner should face ILIA Topuria for the lightweight championship title. That's it, guys. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video. Thank you for always supporting us. See you on the next one.